Here we go. We're going to look at this puzzle. You will notice instead of like numbers 1 through whatever, there are letters. And if you go to the back, you will notice at the very bottom, bear with me, the very bottom, there's a decoding system. So we're going to answer the riddle, what do baby parabolas drink? First of all, some of you already said, what is a parabola? A parabola, by the way, if I write, you may want to write. A parabola is the word to describe this type of a curve. It can either open up or it can open down. It is actually called a quadratic. Now, before Christmas, we were studying solving quadratics. Parabola is kind of like the slang word for the graph of a quadratic, okay? So they're the same thing. If you say parabola, you also mean quadratic. If you say quadratic, you're talking about a parabola, okay? So what did baby parabolas drink? Before Christmas, you learned how to solve quadratics by factoring and by square roots. Okay, that's what we're going to review this week. And then we're going to have like a little review quiz on Thursday. Why are we having it on Thursday? Because I am banking on not being here Friday. I've talked about it so much, I really hope I don't jinx it. But like every weather forecast is like very confident. So I have a feeling they will cancel us. So whether we have snow or not, I will not see y'all. I'm hoping to not see y'all Friday. Now don't go home and say, Miss Holcombe said we don't have school Friday. That's not the case. Right now you do. You have to wait for that text on Thursday night, 7 p.m. Just tell me Thursday morning so I can be excited about it all day. All right, I get sidetracked. Here we go. We're going to refresh you on solving by factoring. This whole sheet is factoring. Let me give you a crash course. If it refreshes your memory, then take off with the worksheet. If you're still like, you're going to have to do another example, I got you. When it's just a GCF, for instance, if we had, let's say, 2x squared minus x equals 0. This is just watch. You don't have to necessarily, or you can write it on the back where there's room, but just watch. There's how many terms here? Terms are separated by plus and minus signs. So how many are here? There's 2. Y'all remember this technique? We would draw a line so we could see them. There's 2x squared and there's negative x. Okay, what do they have in common? Well, number-wise, the smallest thing they have in common is a 1, so that's not helpful. What about letter-wise? They both have an x. What's the smallest exponent of the letters? A 1. Okay, so we are going to pull an x to the 1 power out of the front. This is called your GCF. This is starting to ring a bell a little bit. We're going to factor an x to the front. Now we got to write what's left over. So you got to think to yourself, x times what would give me 2x squared? Let me ask it again. X times what would give me 2x squared? 2x. 2x. Very good. Now double check it. Read it in your mind. Is x times 2x this? Yes, it is. So you did it right. Now repeat. X times what would give me negative x? X times negative 1 would give me negative x. Does everyone agree? You did it right. All right. Let me bring down my equals 0. Now, before the break, we learned something about anytime you have this crap times this crap equaling 0, what does that tell me about these two pieces of crap? Think about it. What's the only way to multiply two things together and get 0? Zero's got to be in there somewhere, right? Y'all think about the math with 0. Any number times 0 is what? 0. Every time, every day, all day. Doesn't matter, right? And what is 0 times 0? 0. So look at this. Don't get bogged down in the letters. Don't let that confuse you. This is crap. This is multiplication. This is crap. So two things are multiplying together, and I'm getting what, y'all? 0. So the math behind it is, okay, well, one of those pieces of crap has got to be 0. Now, technically, they're not called crap because that wouldn't make sense. They're actually called factors. This is called a factor. There was a factor of x that we pulled out, and then this is called a factor. There was a factor of 2x minus 1 left. One of the factors has to be 0. We don't know which one it is, so we just set them both equal to 0. So watch this. You say, all right, well, then x has to equal 0, and 2x minus 1 has to equal 0. And now we solve. Is this already solved? Is there anything to do? Yeah, this is done. There's nothing to do here. What about here? What would I do? Plus 1. Balance it out. I got 2x on the left. On the right, 0 plus 1 is 1. Now what? Divide by 2. That cancels. So I end up with x equals 1/2. So watch this. If I went back to this original and I plugged in 0, so 2 times 0 squared minus 0, what would I get? 0, because it's a solution. What if I plugged in 1/2? 2 times 1/2 squared minus 1/2, what would I get? 0, because it's a solution. So this is what we're doing. Now, this was factoring by GCF. This was when there's two terms. Notice there's two terms here, and they had a GCF. So you pull the GCF out, you set them each equal to 0, you solve. There's only 2 of those on this worksheet. The rest of the worksheet is the box method. Y'all remember this? Let me work number 1 for you. Can you read it to me? Number 1. X squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. All right, here we go. Everybody should be working with me. I'm doing number 1 for you. Well, it's not number 1. I'm doing M. Now, if you had me last semester, you're at a slight advantage. Every math teacher is different. The math is the same, but every math teacher is different. If you didn't have me last semester, she probably taught it the exact same way that I'm about to say this, but here we go. The first thing you do, you need to recognize, first of all, is it equal to 0? Step 1, it has to be equal to 0. So if it's not, you got to move everything to the same side. This one's already equal to 0. Step 2, you're going to draw your arc to multiply A times C, and you're going to set up that hole. Does this look familiar? A times C goes here, B goes here, and then you come up with your 2 numbers. So here we go. This is a 1. So 1 times negative 8. I'm going to come over here and do it. What's 1 times negative 8? Negative 8. Then you're going to copy B to the bottom. So negative 2 goes here. Now it's a number game. Remember, we're working with what multiplies to give me negative 8, but adds to give me negative 2. So here we go. Multiples of 8. Well, you got 1 and 8, or 2 and 4, and that's it, right? Which pair of numbers can give me 2? 2 and 4. So let's place them. We got 2 and 4. Now, if you remember last semester, the bottom, listen to how many times I say words that start with a B, and there's a reason for this. The bottom number, the sign of it, the bottom number matches the sign of the bigger number. So the bottom is negative. Which number's bigger? 4. So it needs to be negative. And then you have to actually check the sign over here. You have to check it. So here we go. Let's check it. Is 2 times negative 4 negative 8? Yes. And then run your eyes across. Does 2 minus 4 give you negative 2? Yes. So we're ready to go to our box. Here we go. Draw your box. I'll try and make mine a little bigger so you can see. And let me fix that. That is slightly off. I'm going to come over here and remind you, in the box, if you recall, first term, first box. First term, first box. Last term, last box. Remember that? So the first term is x squared. The last term is negative 8. And then these two numbers that you came up with right here go in these two boxes that are left. It does not matter which ones you place where. However, doesn't matter which ones you place where. However, I tend to put my negative with my negative, because then I definitely know, okay, they have a negative in common, okay? So I'm going to put the 2 here and the negative 4 here. Does anyone remember there was a very important next step that we had? There it is. Look at you. I'm going to change colors because a lot of people forget this. That color did not stand out. I'm going to change colors because a lot of people forget this part, and then it messes up the whole dang thing. So please remember, Jackson, stay with me. Please remember right here that you're going to put the number and then an X and then the number and then an X. Okay, so that's how you fill the box in. Now, next is the GCF again. You've got to be able to pull a GCF out. But you should recall there was a pattern involved every time. All right, so here we go. We're going to take and run our eyes to the left. Ask yourself, what's the GCF between these two? Well, numerically, because this is a 1, they don't have a numerical GCF. You can't. If the smallest number is 1, then there's no numerical GCF. What about x's? How many can I pull out? Just the 1. X to the first power. Then come down here, repeat. Run your eyes to the left. What do they have in common? Okay, first of all, whatever the sign is of this number is the sign of your GCF. So this is negative, so this is going to be negative. Now, what GCF do 4 and 8 have in common? 4. By the way, on Desmos, if you struggle, let's see, I'll write it right here. On Desmos, you can actually type GCF parentheses -4, -8, and it will tell you, hey, it's -4. So if you're bad at GCF, you have help. Of course, I need you to get good at it, though. All right, we're almost to the part of figuring this out. Okay, we got to figure out what goes up here. So here we go. How do you get that part? You ask yourself what's left over. Let me give you a little tip. The bottom is easier to work with. Okay? So watch this. You say to yourself, if I pull -4 out of this, if I divide a -4 out, what would be left out of this one? An X. Now ask yourself, is -4 times X -4X? Yes. Repeat. If I divide -8, divide, not subtract. By -4, what's left? 2. I'm going to put a +2. Now ask yourself, is -4 times 2 -8? Yes. And then now you just check it with the top. Is X times X, X squared? Yes. Is x times 2, 2x. Yes. So you did it right. So here's your factors. Here's your factors right here. Let's put it, I don't have room here, so I'm going to come down here. We got x minus 4, and we've got x plus 2 equals 0. And now we're at that part where it's something times something equals 0. So all we have to do is set them equal to 0 and solve. So we're going to take this out and this out, set it equal to 0 and solve.
Wait, you can't just put them in like that anymore?
What do you mean? Oh yeah, this is just if I said factor it, you'd stop here. But if I say solve it, you have to go one step further.
Are we solving it?
Yeah, we're solving. Well, you're going to factor to solve. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So here I'd add 4. I get that x is 4. And here I'd add subtract 2. I get that x is negative 2. So there's my solutions. Now, there looks like a lot of writing up here. That's because I put all this extra stuff on the right. Or on the left. I don't know my sides. I put all this over here to help you. So your solution for m is 4, negative 2. Now you'd go to the back of your paper and go to the bottom, and you would find where your answer choice was 4 or negative 2. And you're going to put an m. There it is, right there. All right. Now, that's it. That's the whole sheet. This is also one of your grades for this week. It's a daily grade. So get busy. I'm going to walk around and help anyone who needs additional help. I'm going to leave this up here, though. The GCF method, you can take a picture. It'll last longer. Sorry. There's only 2 of those on the paper. The GCF method. The majority of the paper is this right here, box method. How do you know which one's which? How many terms are right there for GCF method? And how many was here? That's the difference. Was there... Hand me your paper. I wonder if there's a difference of perfect squares. There's not. Good.
Wait, there's perfect squares on here?
No, you're good. You're good. Oh, there is. Go to U. Go to U. Let me show you a hint. You might say, well, there's only 2 terms. Come on. What term's missing?
B.
Yep. Right here. Your BX term is missing. So since it's missing, that means it's what number? 0. So rewrite that with a 0x there, and then now you'll be able to figure out. That's going to end up being perfect squares. We had examples like that before Christmas.
So you solve by using
You still do it normal. 4 times negative 16, but you're going to get a very big number, which is your clue. The fact that it's this really big number. Somebody tell me 4 times 16. That's 40 plus 64. So you've got to think of what multiplies to give me 64 but adds to give me 0. Well, if it's adding to 0, then that means that the 2 numbers have to be exactly the same but with opposite signs. So it's a perfect square. What's the square root of 64? Does anybody remember? 64's square root is 8. So it's going to be positive 8 and negative 8 that you're going to come up with. Okay, I'm going to go back over here to this, though, because I know that's more helpful. All right,